Vietnam continues restructuring stock market in 2015. Prospect for Vietnam's real estate market in the first half of 2015. Hello, this is Linh Hương from Hanoi, and it's good to see you again on another episode of Bizline. As usual, we start with several highlights in the economic scene for the past week. The State Bank Circular 36, which officially becomes effective this February, is anticipated to have huge impact on investment into securities as it has toughened up lending rules for stock market speculation. Though Circular 36 is believed to bring positive impacts to the market in the long run, with healthier development for the securities market, experts said that the circular would undoubtedly have a negative psychological impact on investors as well as the capital flows within the short term. In 2015, Vietnam will continue to restructure its stock market, according to the State Security Commission at a conference held this Monday in Hanoi. The State Security Commission has set targets to increase transparency and raise the ranking of Vietnam's stock market. This will be done simultaneously with the merging and dissolution of weak securities companies, as well as the supporting of big corporations in their equitization process and divestment from non-core activities. The State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, will continue to allocate credit growth rates for commercial banks this year based on the bank's health and business performance. The move is aimed at controlling credit quality and restricting the generation of new non-performing loans. The SBV will divide commercial banks into 4 groups depending upon their performance in the previous years to allocate the credit growth quota. The division will be healthy banks, average banks, below average banks, and weak banks. Group 4 might not be allocated credit growth rates. To boost lending safely, the Central Bank's Credit Information Center is also building a system to monitor the credit history of borrowers so that commercial banks can base their actions on the information and thereby stepping up lending to good firms while ramping up scrutiny of the ailing firms. The National Steering Committee for ODA and Preferential Loans met with 6 development banks on Tuesday to devise a plan to accelerate ODA disbursement this year. The 6 agencies included the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, Korea Exim Bank, Germany's KfW, and France AFD. Addressing the event, Deputy Prime Minister and Chairman of the National Steering Committee for ODA, Hoàng Trung Hai, said that official ODA disbursement improved last year. According to a report released by the committee, ODA disbursement in 2014 reached about $5.6 billion, an increase of 9% year-on-year. Over 70% of the funds were used to develop infrastructure. Japan was responsible for the large amount of disbursed funding, reaching $1.7 billion. To boost the efficiency of ODA and preferential loans in 2015, state management agencies, representatives, project managers, and donors have agreed to hold regular meetings to deal with issues related to the disbursement process. The Deputy Prime Minister also asked the Ministry of Planning and Investment to collect international donors' insights and opinions and prepare a review of previous projects while building guidelines for future ODA plans. Vietnam's export turnover in January hit $12.9 billion, or 0.2% higher than December, and up 9.7% over the same period last year. According to the General Statistics Office, major commodities earning higher export turnover against December, including telephones and components, up 34.6%, followed by pepper, rice, electronics, computer and spare parts, cassava, and its related products. However, there were several agro-produce and materials that suffered a decline in value in the reviewed period, including vegetables, coal, crude oil, and chemicals. Also, during this period, the country experienced a trade deficit of $500 million, equivalent to 3.9% of the export turnover in the month. The General Statistics Office on the beginning of February launched a nationwide investigation into the use of investment into social welfare projects. Estimates show that the investments in these projects contributed to 30% of GDP each year. However, in the past, ineffective use of investments have led to slow socio-economic development. This year's survey aims to minimize this problem. The investigation will collect information on the investment into social welfare projects and capability and effectiveness of 2014 projects from economic sectors nationwide. The research aims to find the main source of investments, the purpose, location, and sectors of the projects. The survey will continue until April 30th, and the results will be published at the end of 2015. HSBC Vietnam this week released the Purchasing Managers Index, which shows an improvement in Vietnam's business environment for production companies. Vietnam's production output continued its rising trend in January thanks to the increase in new orders. As a result, number of new jobs surged at the highest rate since December 2013. According to the HSBC, global oil prices have declined, pushing input costs to the lowest level. Therefore, production firms can reduce their costs and prices. Costs have declined for 4 consecutive months and at the highest rate for the past 2.5 years. Besides, delivery time has been cut down for the past 4 months. This is attributed to the improved efficiency of salespeople in January thanks to faster payment. We have just reviewed several economic and business highlights for the past week. Up next, we'll talk about the prospects for Vietnam's real estate market in 2015 in our crosstalk. The year 2014 witnessed positive movements of the Vietnam economy and the real estate market, bringing brighter outlooks for 2015. The revised law on housing, decreasing interest rates, and reinforced market confidence all have supported the property market. Stability in macroeconomic environment has led to an increase in FDI, with real estate ranking second in terms of total FDI in Vietnam. I recently sat down with Mr. Richard Leach, Executive Director at CBRE Vietnam, to review the real estate market in 2014 to discuss the prospects for this market in the first half of 2015. Before listening to our crosstalk, let's take a look at the following.
The latest reports from the Ministry of Construction show that in 2014, the real estate market recorded a positive trend of increased transactions, stabilized prices, lower inventories, and a credit growth rate that is higher than the economy's average. In terms of transactions, Hanoi saw 11,450 successful deals, double the number for 2013. Meanwhile, there were 10,350 transactions in Ho Chi Minh City, an on-year rise of 30%. Notably, inventories continued on a downward trend. As of December 15, 2014, the total value of inventories in the sector was $3.38 billion. This represents a decline of 21.8% compared to the end of 2013 and a 42.5% fall compared to the beginning of 2013. Lending activities for property development also picked up under the influence of lower interest rates. As a result, the outstanding loans in the sector as of the end of October last year were $13.7 billion, up 14% compared to the end of 2013. Significantly, the credit growth rate in this sector is higher than the economy's average.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing to our interview. But first of all, according to the Vietnamese Ministry of Construction, the real estate market have shown signs of recovery since the end of 2013, with transactions picked up and the real estate inventory have gone down in 2014. So what sectors or market segments were in the spotlight last year, in your opinion?
Well, the sectors in the spotlight were the affordable housing sector. Certainly between affordable and medium-end housing. That was in the spotlight. More launches, more sales in that space. The luxury sector on residential was much thinner, not a lot of supply. So what was supplied actually was taken up quite quickly. So it looked like the luxury sector was performing well, but actually the number of units was much lower than in previous years, where high-end luxury sector was more predominant. In terms of tourism and second home market particularly, there wasn't a huge amount of supply, although in the first month of the year we've seen some launches, particularly in Phu Quoc and Da Nang and Nha Trang, of second home villas for sale. And we'll probably see this year more condo for sale. In terms of commercial sector, then retail has had a fairly flat year in terms of consumer spending, so there hasn't been a great demand for new retail space. So hence, apart from Aeon and maybe one or two others, there hasn't been a lot of activity in the development sector on retail, particularly shopping. But what we did see was that maybe traditional shopping, but maybe in a more modern way, was gaining some traction, and we saw some retail nodes in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. We saw some unconventional retail, so it was quite an exciting market, but not necessarily in the shopping center space. The office sector, although there's a lot of supply in Hanoi, but not much new supply in the CBD of Ho Chi Minh City, still resulted in some good net absorption, some good take-up of space. And that was primarily because of big projects in the A-grade space, midtown, like the Lotte Center in Hanoi.
Riding the crest of development within the economy, Vietnam's real estate saw positive movements in 2014, especially in the residential market. Buyers had enough time to save money and research the available products thoroughly before settling on a purchase that matched their needs and their budget. Amidst all this, the G5 Real Estate Alliance of Distributors saw its revenues rise remarkably.
Liên minh gần năm 2014 vừa qua thì đã tăng lên so với 2013, là tăng lên cái doanh số là gần như là 100%. Ví dụ như là năm 2013 đạt khoảng 1.500 giao dịch, thì năm 2014 đã đạt khoảng hơn 3.000 giao dịch. Cái chuyển biến này là ở cái nguồn cung và cái cầu gặp nhau ở cái điểm là cái giá khá hợp lý, và cái chất lượng về nhà, những cái căn hộ cũng vừa phải, phù hợp với cái nhu cầu người sử dụng.
The SDDA distribution system also recorded a noticeable growth between the first 8 months and the last 4 months of the year. From January to August 2014, the group sold 1,800 apartments. Then, in the last 4 months of the year, it sold over 2,000 units. According to SDDA, this is largely thanks to the good supply from developers.
Sau cái thời gian mà thị trường trầm lắng thì thị trường cũng đã thanh lọc đi rất là nhiều các chủ đầu tư không đủ năng lực về mặt tài chính cũng như là về kinh nghiệm bất động sản. Và hiện tại chỉ tồn tại những chủ đầu tư đã có kinh nghiệm, ngoài ra thì còn có một cái nguồn vốn rất là dồi dào và đầu tư một cách bài bản. Và những cái sản phẩm của họ thì cũng đã đưa được đến những người tiêu dùng cuối cùng với một cái mức giá hợp lý.
Moreover, a stable macroeconomy, improved legal frameworks, and credit policies have helped banks to disburse money more quickly. According to the Ministry of Construction, banks have stepped up their lending to individuals at low interest rates and offering more favorable conditions. This has triggered a higher demand for real estate, particularly for apartments priced at $115,000 and under.
Dòng tiền mà được tăng cường hơn vào thị trường này thì cái tính thanh khoản kể cả về hai phía cung cũng như phía cầu, thì tôi chắc chắn là sẽ được tăng lên.
It could be said that more favorable conditions were presented to both the supply and demand side in 2014, especially with regards to affordable housing.
So you just mentioned that the affordable housing segment were in the spotlight last year. So what's your take on the reason behind that?
There's definitely demand for housing in the whole country, and but it has to be affordable. It has to be smaller, it has to have a sweet spot which is much lower than probably in the old days where there was a lot of speculation, people buying and selling and profit taking. But these last 12 months, there's been a much more much more focus on affordable, but it has to be smaller. It has to be within the means of most Vietnamese families. Yes, we did notice an increase in our mortgage valuations department, for instance, which gets sent out by banks to go value each of the homes that has been sold. Then there has been an increase, and we see that all the launches, the banks are always there, and they are ready and willing to lend. And in most cases, it's up to 70% of the value of the home that they're lending, and the terms are maybe 15 or 20 years, which has been consistent with previous years, but volumes have increased.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the new policies that have been affecting the real estate market in Vietnam?
Well, I think that the government has put in some good policy in the last year or two, particularly on the land law and the housing law and the real estate law, which will come into effect in July. So, and then obviously macroeconomic policies such as reducing the interest rates and controlling inflation. All this has had a very good effect, a positive effect eventually on the market, although the last few years have been tough for the whole real estate sector.
In July 2015, the amended law on housing and law on real estate business, which were both passed late last year, will come into effect. The amended laws provide clearer and more comprehensive regulations on sellers' and buyers' rights and transactions. Notably, foreigners will also be allowed to buy and own property in Vietnam. This is seen as a breakthrough in these times of integration and will be a boost for Vietnam's real estate market.
Thì trong cái bối cảnh là AEC, RCEP, TPP thì việc cho phép người nước ngoài mua nhà là mở ra cái đối tượng cầu, mà đây là những đối tượng cầu có năng lực rất lớn. Bởi thế cho nên nó sẽ tạo ra một cái luồng tiền rất lớn vận hành vào.
Moreover, it is no longer mandatory for transactions to be made through real estate trading floors. Individual buyers and sellers can trade without an intermediary.
Như vậy việc quản lý các cá nhân này như thế nào? Đấy thì chắc chắn các văn bản quy phạm pháp luật sẽ phải có sự điều chỉnh để giải quyết những vấn đề thách thức này, nếu không thì sẽ rất khó quản lý, và nếu không thì quyền lợi, những lợi ích của kể cả chủ đầu tư lẫn của các khách hàng cũng sẽ bị ảnh hưởng.
In addition, updates on financing policies are also drawing attention. In mid-January 2015, the State Bank of Vietnam allowed 10 more commercial banks to join the $1.4 billion credit package for low-income home buyers, thus raising the total number of participating banks to 15.
Gói này không để gọi là gói 30.000 tỷ nữa, mà gọi là một cái gói hỗ trợ tín dụng lãi suất thấp cho chương trình nhà lâu dài để cho người có nhu cầu mua nhà ở xã hội vay.
It has also been announced recently that the State Bank of Vietnam and relevant agencies are planning to propose that the government issue a $2.3 billion credit package for commercial housing. The package will offer an interest rate of 7% per annum over 10 years. In addition, the legal frameworks for lending for commercial housing are being improved.
Vay thương mại thì cũng có một cái sự cởi mở hơn, như là cái xác định về cái đối tượng khách hàng hoặc là cái việc mà tài sản thế chấp hình thành trong tương lai bằng những cái văn bản luật hóa, thì khiến như vậy thì khách hàng người ta cũng sẽ dễ dàng và ngân hàng tiếp cận với khách hàng để tạo điều kiện cái thủ tục về pháp lý sẽ dễ dàng khách hàng được vay.
In general, the new laws and policies are expected to create better conditions for both the authorities and enterprises.
In 2014, Vietnamese National Assembly passed the revised law on residential housing as well as the revised law on real estate business, which eases the access of foreign investors into this market in Vietnam. So how do you think these amendments will affect the attractiveness of Vietnam's real estate sector compared with other countries in the region?
Well, it's certainly becoming more attractive. We've seen the guideline and the framework of what that would look like, and it looks very promising at this stage, and I think it's created a fair amount of excitement amongst foreigners that live here, and even maybe foreigners that are living overseas that have their eye on the property market in Vietnam. Whether it will be a CBD type of investment into condo or landed house, or a second home on the coast or the golf course or the mountains remains to be seen, but most likely it would be for that second home usage. But there's a pent-up demand. There is a demand that foreigners that have lived here for a long time, they would like to own their own home, and they've been limited and restricted with the pilot scheme to maybe one condo in a particular location. But now the new law opens that up, hopefully, to have one or multiple condos, and to be able to sublease them out, and to be able to trade them, sell them to Vietnamese or other foreigners at any time, so that they can upgrade and establish themselves in Vietnam.
So in your opinion, what should Vietnamese government do to boost the recovery of the market and also the investors' confidence in this market?
I think in terms of investor confidence, then it goes back to the same old story in terms of land clearance issues and the price of land, the administration costs associated with development. Those still continue to be slowing down the whole process of development, and maybe that's a little bit more difficult in the north of Vietnam than it's been in the south of Vietnam. But I think that's nothing there that can't be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, the real estate market is expected to continue solving a number of ongoing issues like bad debt and high inventories, especially with regard to luxury inventories. In addition, to balance the difference between supply and demand, distributors will have to be more professional and act as a better bridge between developers and consumers.
Tiếp đà của những cái tháng cuối của năm 2014 thì đầu năm 2015 thị trường cũng vẫn diễn biến với những cái thông tin rất là tốt. Thì chính vì thế chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục tăng về quy mô và sẽ chiếm lĩnh tất cả các cái phân khúc từ thị trường, từ cao cấp, trung cấp và kể cả những các cái dự án bất động sản ở cái mức trung bình để phục vụ cái nhu cầu an sinh xã hội của người dân.
Thứ nhất là phải tạo cái niềm tin đối với khách hàng. Cái hai là có những cái tiêu chí nhất định để đánh giá về sản phẩm và vị trí để đảm bảo khi với người mua nhà người ta có một cái tài sản, thứ nhất là an toàn, thứ hai là có cái giá trị gia tăng lợi nhuận, thì đấy chính là cái mà được khách hàng tin tưởng và đấy là cái thành công của chúng tôi.
In general, experts forecast that as the market starts to recover, the sector will be presented with both opportunities and challenges. In light of this prediction, they have suggested certain proposals for developers.
Cái sự hợp tác trong một cái cơ chế thị trường là rất quan trọng. Các doanh nghiệp cần phải có sự hợp tác trao đổi với nhau để cùng nhau tạo ra thành những cái nhóm, những cái tổ chức lớn hơn, có năng lực tài chính lớn hơn, và cùng nhau để trao đổi các kinh nghiệm và những cái thông tin thị trường, để từ đó thì cả một cái cộng đồng doanh nghiệp bất động sản mới cùng nhau phát triển lên được.
Lựa chọn cho kỹ nhưng làm dứt điểm, tập trung hết tất cả, làm từng bước nhưng làm dứt điểm, không làm tràn lan. Còn trong thời điểm hiện tại thị trường mới phục hồi thì chỉ có thể làm rốt ráo, được dự án nào, được sản phẩm nào thực hiện đến nơi đến chốn, thu hồi vốn và làm tiếp.
Over the past few months, the real estate sector has shown signs of high activity, with many projects being launched for sales, along with attractive promotions for investors and speculators. So, based on your research, what do you predict for the supply and demand for this sector in the coming time?
I see with regards to promotions and incentives, I see that the developers have pretty much held their prices and expecting that there will be some slight increases in prices. And to support the sales, speed it up, then they have been offering some promotions. But these could be in the form of extended payment periods or lower interest rates or fixed interest rates for a certain period of time. So we see that with these attractive proposals that are coming out of the developers and a limited number of launches, then there will be demand for these products. And we've seen at the launches, there are people that are not speculating, but there are end users there that are buying because they need a home or they are buying a second home for rent. If we consider that gold prices, interest rates in the bank, stock market, and then look at the rental yields on owning a home and leasing it out, they are actually quite good investments at the moment.
So which sectors or locations will be most promising for the real estate market?
I think still we are looking at downtown Ho Chi Minh City and downtown Hanoi, but obviously that's a much more difficult proposition given the scarcity of land and the limited number of developments that can take place. So pushing out into Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City with certain districts that still belong to those cities, then there will still be demand for housing in those two cities.
So given such prospects for the real estate market this year and also the near future, what strategies do you think investors will push forward in the coming time?
Investors will push forward to build homes at a much more affordable price that they can sell perhaps before they complete their projects, but they will be smaller units. So we've noticed that with some of the developers that were building maybe 150 square meters for a 3-bedroom, they'll now get their 2 bedrooms into 60 square meters or their 1 bedrooms into 40 square meters. So there has been a deliberate increase to reduce the sizes of homes to satisfy demand for that size.
As we've discussed, the macroeconomy as well as the developments in the financial sector have great impacts on Vietnam's real estate market. So in return, how do you think the development of the real estate market will affect the economy in 2015?
Well, we have seen maybe the last 4 years, and we've had a difficult time, and we've seen that the economy has slowly picked up, and we've seen that people are starting to gain confidence, and it appears now for the last couple of months, or at least the first month of this year, that confidence has come back, and we would expect that to translate into sales or at least trading of units, because it appears that maybe the developers and the buyers have been a bit cash strapped, or they've been holding on to their cash, and so there hasn't been a huge amount of liquidity in the market. So you see that a lot of stagnation has taken place in the Vietnamese economy because of that, but hopefully that will be eased up as the market becomes more liquid.
Well, Richard, thank you very much for spending your time in our program today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Real estate market, after reaching its bottom, has bounced back with the support of many policies issued recently during the 2014 year-end period. Moreover, low interest rates will encourage investment in housing. Property prices have been much more affordable over the last 5 years, with smaller size units triggering demand from both owner-occupiers and investors. It's expected that the market will continue to look positive in 2015 as more new launches or project restarts will be seen in the two most happening markets of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. And that wraps up this edition of Bizline. Thank you very much for being with us. Remember that you can always watch us online at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. And from our team here in Hanoi, goodbye for now.